Welcome into the conversation, everybody. Josh Jones here with Baker Lilly, John Duncan. We're getting ready to talk some week 1 football. Guys, what's up? How was your week 0 experience?
It was good, Josh. I was glad to finally get back to a little normalcy and watch some football this past Saturday. Not a whole lot of football, but, kind of what we said last week on
appetizer.
Yeah, exactly. We just got a little appetizer to get ready for this monster week 1 that we're about to talk with you guys in a little bit. But Baker, buddy, how are you doing this evening?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm going to tell you this, though. It was kind of blowout city on Saturday, but I'm still with you and saying, hey, it's back. So what can I say? At least we had it on the TV, something to watch.
Man, I'm shaking my head, too, because I think I was the guy that said Hawaii's going to keep this game close to the UCLA based on their defense. And, man, was I proved wrong.
Hey, but how about UTEP last week? That game of the week, man, they really did it to New Mexico State.
Shout out to those Miners. 30-3. Yeah, good win for UTEP and good start for Dana Dimmel and company. And we'll see what they can do in the coming weeks for sure.
And sorry, I have to say this. Why is Ty Graham still wearing the Britney Spears headset?
Man.
Oh, my gosh. That drives me crazy.
Hey, no pun intended.
Hey, he's just standing on the sideline screaming at the linebackers to hit me, baby, one more time.
There you go. Only at the G5 beat can you hear us talk some Britney Spears. Yeah.
Nice.
But guys, on a serious note, I do kind of want to start the show off just sending all of our positive thoughts and prayers down in Louisiana and especially in the New Orleans area. Just you guys, I know we've got listeners down there. Just, praying for you guys, hoping all is well, and just definitely want to send some positive thoughts towards you guys and hope that everybody's doing okay.
Right there with you, man.
And continue to stay safe too here going forward.
Please. And speaking of that, unfortunately, we did just get the announcement that the Tulane Oklahoma game is going to be moved. Currently is going to be played in Norman, Oklahoma instead of New Orleans. And, guys, we were talking before we started recording this episode, just, how it just stinks because, that's a great opportunity for, a school like Tulane, in the American to host a top, 5-6 program in Oklahoma and try to get that hashtag G5 over P5 victory. And unfortunately, Mother Nature just had to get involved and they're going to have to go to Norman and play in a very tough atmosphere down there in Oklahoma.
All I have to say is I hope they can get something in concrete writing, stone or whatever, that Oklahoma comes back to Tulane. Plus, the longer they go without having some set of agreement to come back, the less likely I think it'll happen.
Yeah,
a few years back, they had major issues with Miami and Arkansas State when they had to cancel because of the hurricane. So, Lord knows it doesn't become something like that.
And they ended up taking that to court, too, I believe. So,
But one thing to keep in mind, too, with Oklahoma moving to the SEC, that might also do a wrench into things scheduling-wise. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen.
Good point.
And so, that's who knows.
And how about, too, you mentioned some of them relocating. How about the fact that Tulane may be looking at playing some home games in Legion Field here coming up?
The old gray lady just won't die, guys.
She will not die.
Man, I tell you what, I saw that today. That I mean, first and foremost, I definitely hope that the guys at Tulane can get back to campus and be able to play some home games soon. But the way it's looking right now is that they probably are going to at least have to play 1, maybe 2, games at Legion Field to start the season. Because I just saw where Tulane is, actually suspending classes through September 13th, and they're going to go after that. They're going to go strictly online through October. So things just aren't looking good right now in New Orleans. I will say, for those that don't know, I'm a big UAB fan.
What?
UAB was set to go to New Orleans this year, just in a couple weeks to play at Tulane. So, I mean, this, could be really good. I hate to say that, but could be really good for UAB to, possibly play them in Legion Field instead of having to go all the way to New Orleans and play them at Yeoman. But guys, we'll just, have to just monitor the situation and see how things go. But I definitely hope that they can get back down there to campus, sooner than later, for sure. Because I know it's tough on these players to be away from, from their family when, all the wreckage and, that's happened because of Hurricane Ida. They want to see their families right away. But here they are, having to practice in Birmingham at crappy Legion Field. Now, granted, they're very appreciative of Legion Field, which, this is a place for them to practice. But, it's got to be tough on those players.
Well, it's also like, what's your focus on football at this point? Like, where's that staying as a priority?
Yeah. Different city, different practice facility, different routine, staying in different places. Like, that'll affect you. You can say till you're blue in the face it doesn't, but it does. And John, to be the bigger person, why didn't UAB just open Protective Stadium a little early? Just let them play in it.
Well, because we're supposed to open it. No. All seriousness is that it's just not ready yet, guys. UAB was able to have a scrimmage, just one scrimmage there, but the fact is it's just not ready. Now it is on track to be ready for the big October 2nd game against Liberty. So it'll definitely be ready by then. But just right now, it's just not ready. So they're gonna have to play at Legion Field if they play again.
John, straight right there.
Hey, I sat through many years at Legion Field, so I think Tulane can sit through a couple weeks there. So they'll be all right. Yeah. Well, guys, we've got a full slate for week 1 here in the group of 5. And I guess we got to start with that game in Orlando this Thursday night, where Boise State, the Broncos, travel down to take on UCF Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Right now, it looks like UCF is a slight, looks like they're a 5-point favorite right now. But it's going to be a hell of a ball game.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are y'all in the camp that UCF will run away with this, or you think it'll be close?
Baker, you want me to go first?
You got it, man.
Man, okay. I don't want to say UCF's going to run away with it, but I definitely could see UCF winning by 10 to 14 points. Is that running away with it? No, it's that. Basically, UCF, I don't know. I just think it's a tough place to play. UCF has won, they had won 4 home openers in a row before they lost last year to Tulsa. But, the bounce house is going to be jumping. And, Boise State, new head coach, new offensive philosophy under Plow. Tim Plow, who came over from UC Davis. It's a new system, and granted, UCF is learning a new system too under Malzahn. But I don't know. I feel like I trust Dylan Gabriel more than I trust Hank Bachmeier. Now, if this game was in Boise, I might be feeling a little different. But I don't know. I guess to counter, let me argue with myself for a quick minute right here. I think UCF has more to lose in this game than Boise has to lose.
I agree with that.
And if you guys want to go back and listen to our Mountain West preview we did a few weeks ago, I hit on this a little bit. It's just, Boise, you got a new head coach, Andy Avalos. You've got a new system. UCF is hosting this game. Huge, Malzahn's been recruiting like crazy. Just the hype is real in Orlando. Like if Boise was to go to UCF and lose by, say, 7 to 10 or even 14 points, it would be disappointing. But Boise would move to the next week. Now for UCF, on the other hand, if you drop your first game, which is a home game for Gus Malzahn, and you drop that game and you look bad, you're already going to have people question and say, oh, well, here comes Auburn again. He can't do it here at UCF. It's just going to – he can't develop an offense. It just looks, he messed up Dylan Gabriel, blah, 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 blah. I just think there's more to lose in this game for UCF than there is for Boise State. And that's just my opinion. But I still do think UCF that gets the W here and covers that 5-point spread.
Hey, let me ask you this before I, get rolling on my opinion here. You said UCF, you think they have more to lose there, but who would you say has more to gain?
Oh, that's a good question. I still think it's UCF though. Because Boise State,
I don't know. I think Boise's got more to gain there. New coach. Granted, both new coaches, but the expectations are lower for Boise. I think they come in to UCF and knock off UCF. I think they definitely gain more than UCF winning.
That's a fair point.
I don't know. I kind of feel like they're both in similar situations when it comes to who has more to gain at that point. But I do agree that I would say UCF definitely has more to lose. The expectations are higher at this point for UCF. Going into what I think about it to answer Josh's question, though, I will say, and I'm not shy about it, I think that UCF is going to run away with this. I may be one of the few. I may be one of many. I don't know. But the way that I look at this, Hank Bachmeier won that job over Jack Sears, who's a USC transfer, and that's fine. But listen, Bachmeier, he hasn't been great. And I'll tell you this, UCF's defense is not all world by any means. But at the same time, UCF's offense is just in another world. They really are. They're the top offense in the American. They can really sling the ball around. The defense of Boise is middle tier from the Mountain West. So you're basically giving me the top offense from the American. Not to mention one of the top offenses in the nation against mid-tier Mountain West Boise defense. And I take UCF all day over that. And then on the other side of the ball, you're giving me a Boise offense that's, at best, in my opinion, mid-tier Mountain West versus a defense who's really not good for UCF. So granted, I will tell you that'll play in Bachmeier's favor, the fact that he is going up against a not so great defense from UCF. But how are you going to tell me that they're going to be able to keep up with UCF's offense? I just don't see it. Now, I will say, though, first game of the year, it is common for offenses to kind of sputter out of the gate and maybe have some issues. So if they're having communication issues, if they're having some issues with, the offense in general, then maybe you see Boise stick around. But I don't see them holding them down. They've got too many important guys coming back on UCF's offense that are veterans that, have really been there. And, they're going to know what to do. So I see them running away with it.
All right. So I don't keep it a secret that I'm a Bama fan. Okay. And so I have a little experience with the old Gus bus. So here's my 2 cents. It's worth half of that. Gus is a run first guy. He is going to put more focus on running the ball than I would say UCF has had in recent past. He's always had an emphasis on running the ball. Boise, I would say, yes, their defense is not the greatest, but I feel like their defensive front is actually probably one of the best in their conference. And we all know defense travels. Also, Gus has a tendency to literally mess up any quarterback he comes in contact with. So I really think just for his own ego, again, I'm not bitter. I think he's going to have a focus on running the ball. I think it's going to play into well to the strength of that Boise State team. And I feel like that it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, for Gus to kind of put his finger on exactly what he wants to do down there. Because, like I said, he's going to have a focus on running the ball. Is he going to stick with that, or is he eventually going to transition to more of a pass happy kind of offense? But I just think that I think UCF will still win, but I think the pure advantage solely comes down to them playing at home. So I think, it's going to be a pretty close game with them nearing, winning by field goal or touchdown. But I just don't see it being that close. I mean that big of a runaway by UCF. I see it being a close game, and I think with the offensive philosophy that Gus is bringing in and playing to the strength of that Boise team, and I probably would trust Gabriel over Bachmeier, but I think that Boise offense has enough experience, along with some of the pieces they brought in from that transfer portal, to keep up with UCF if they're running the ball, taking a little air out of it, maybe not pushing the ball downfield. Now Gus can come out and prove me wrong, go 5 wide, and throw it all over the place. Who knows? But just knowing him and how he does, he loves to try to run the ball. If he's going to run it, if he can, he's going to try. So like I said, that's my 2 cents worth. I think it's actually going to be a pretty close game, and like I said, I just think the advantage comes to the UCF playing at home.
Let me ask you this, Josh. I take a listen to what you said, and I think you're probably the best guy to ask this because I personally don't know. Going back to when Gus took over at Auburn, what did they have in terms of their system back then? Were they slinging the ball around, or were they running the ball then? Because I look at that and look at what he's inheriting at UCF.
Yeah.
Say maybe he's just, maybe he was then – going by, what he had, and maybe he could do the same here. And pass the ball, and he may evolve that into more of a running offense. But right now, he probably has, the guys under his belt really to play with an offense that really makes their bread off of passing the ball.
So when he took over at Auburn, Auburn had a horrible year the year before. And Gene Chizik's last year, Gene Chizik made a decision that they were going to switch to a more pro style attack, and I believe they brought in Scott Loeffler as the OC for that. John, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's who they brought in. And so Auburn and it was weird because they had all the pieces left over from Gus Malzahn's offense because Gus left, went to Arkansas State, but they still had all the players they recruited for his system, but they were trying to make that transition to a more pro-style attack because that's what Bama was doing, that's what Bama was dominating with, and it did not work well. So Gus came back and re-implemented his system. Luckily, he had a lot of pieces, and he also had a transfer in Nick Marshall that came in, which is like a one-hit wonder and just knew how to run Gus's offense. But Nick Marshall ran the ball, and the running attack, I believe, I can't remember exactly the stats off the top of my head, but when Nick Marshall was there, they were a run-first team, and they made it to the championship game. They did it based on the run game. Nick Marshall was not the best thrower. He could throw it when he had to, and he'd throw a couple of pretty balls, but they were a run-first team. They were a physical run-first team, and they had all these gadget plays. And that's kind of another thing, too. Gus is kind of, I would say, when his system first hit college football, people didn't know what to do, but he's kind of failed to adapt since then. And John, being, where we're at, too, please also correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he needs a little modernization in his offense to kind of bring it up with the times. But I really do see him trying. I think it's going to be a focal point for him to run the ball. I really do.
Yeah, I think you're right, Josh. I guess for me in this game, even though it does scare me a little bit, with Gus Malzahn and how he tends to kind of ruin offenses. But right now, the pieces are in place. He has the talent on offense. And for me, it just comes down to I trust the UCF offense a lot more right now than I do the Boise State defense, which, let's face it, last year they were mediocre. Baker said it earlier. They were just a mediocre Mountain West defense. In fact, they were worst statistical defense that they've had in like 5 years. Even on the offensive side of the ball, that was the worst statistical offense they've had in over 20 years. So, and they still made the Mountain West Championship last year. But I trust UCF's offense a lot more than I trust Boise State's defense. And going back, if you go back and listen to our Mountain West preview, we kind of expounded upon that. Boise State's trying to run a completely new style of offense than they were under Harsin, where they're trying to run more of a air raid spread under Tim Ply, who came from UC Davis, as opposed to a multiple pro style that they ran under Harsin. So the problem with that is that it sometimes can take a while to get in rhythm. And with this being the first game, and a hell of a first game for Boise State to have to travel to Orlando, I just don't know if that offense will be clicking. And, Baker mentioned earlier, how the UCF defense really isn't that good. Last year they had a lot of people opt out of the season for UCF, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I trust UCF a lot more in this spot. And that's why I'm kind of really confident in going that UCF will at least cover that 5-point spread Thursday night.
And UCF's defense may be improved too. I mean, they got some pretty major transfers in there. So
Cat Bryant from Auburn, has one of them.
But one other thing really to pay attention to also, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but, they always say this. It's kind of an age-old tale. And Boise's had this issue before, not had this issue, but they've had to face this before, and they've overcome it plenty of times. But always pay attention to the fact that Boise's coming from Idaho, and they're going down to South Florida in September and going down to Orlando. I mean, it's hot down there. It's humid, and cramps are a reality. And I mean, that's a tough thing to simulate being out in Idaho. So pay attention to that. But it's a battle of the Titans, man. It's a battle. It's you can't say it enough. It's a battle of the two teams that have really probably dominated the storyline of the G5 over the past 10 to 15 years.
It's an elimination game for a New Year's Six bowl. I will go out there and say it. I think it is. I think the loser of this game has no chance of making a New Year's Six.
Ooh, no chance. Ooh.
Unless something happens. But also, one thing too, I want to throw out there. Don't forget, UCF's defense came over 1,200 yards in the last 3 games of the air last year.
They gave up, man. I mean, you go back and watch those last couple games. I mean, especially the BYU
bowl game.
That's
more than giving up, though, dude. Like that 400 yards a game passing.
They're just waiting on they were waiting on the Gus bus to come into town. That's what they were doing. Well, they knew he was coming in sooner. They knew Heupel was gone to Tennessee. Hey,
I think Gus will Waffle House and they'll win by a field goal, but I think it'll be close. Now watch me next week be eating my own words, but still.
Now, I do want to respond to Baker just real quick before we move on to our next game. Baker, you brought up how, it is real, going from Boise, Idaho down to Orlando, Florida, cramps are real. It's in September, but I do want to just give a counterpoint to that is that Boise State went into Tallahassee in 2019 in September and beat Florida State, who at the time people thought was going to be a pretty good Florida State team. Now, they ended up just being terrible, but Boise did go down there and take care of business. So, I had to bring that up because I could hear Boise State fans screaming in my ear right now, just saying, hey, what about 2019? What about 2019? But I do think this UCF team is better than that Florida State team.
And they also went down to Louisiana and I believe Troy, and they've opened up with them in recent years too. So they've done it, but I will say at the same time, keep in mind, this is a different coaching staff. So you never know how they work and, what they're going to do when it comes to preparation like that.
Definitely. Well, guys, we'll go ahead and move us to the second game that we wanted to preview. And drum roll, please. This was our Twitter game fan pick of. Oh, I butchered that. Josh, can you read the intro?
This John, go get a beer. This is our G5 beat of the week selected by you, our Twitter followers. Really appreciate it. One of the ways you guys can get involved with the show. We had a incredible response to the poll question we put out last Sunday.
We did, yeah.
Of selecting the game for us to talk about, and this won. So this is what we're calling, and we'll make an announcement towards the end of the show today. We'll put out another poll, but it's what we're going to call from here on forward the G5 beat of the week, which will be selected by our fans every week.
Definitely. And that game is
real quick, I just want to throw in here, guys, if starting to struggle with talking means going and getting another beer, That's a whole new one to me. I thought that was when you were like supposed to cut it off, but hey, I'm all for grab another one.
I get better at talking, at whatever, if I drink more. Sports, you name it, just throw more alcohol on it, I get better at it.
Hey,
Yeah,
you
Brent.
get better at talking, but do the people get better at understanding you? That's the real
That's not my problem. So.
Well, anyway, yeah, we've got the game of the week. App State in East Carolina, ECU in Charlotte, North Carolina, neutral site game. I believe they're calling it with one of the Duke's Mayo Classic games this year. And App State is a 10.5-point favorite in this game. Again, this game is Thursday night at 6:30 Central Time, and it'll be televised on ESPNU. So, guys, definitely, if you're not at one of these games, make sure that you have two TVs up because you'll definitely want to be watching both of these at the same time. We are lucky that Baker is actually going to be in Charlotte for that game, correct?
I'll be there, man. I can't wait. I mean, Lord, we are.
He'll be in purple and gold, right?
Shoot. Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, true story though. Both my mom and my dad went to App. I went to App. My sister and my brother-in-law went to ECU. So we are truly family divided. You hear a house divided. We have a flagpole where we hang App and ECU flags, and I have intentionally always made sure to hang the App State flag on top because near the top, baby.
Nice. Well, guys, I mean, this is it's a really big game in the G5. I mean, you've got an American team, ECU against one of the best Sun Belt teams over the past few years, App State. I mean, these guys kind of go head to head on some recruits too in that region. So this is a big game between ECU and App. Baker, has App played ECU any recently? I can't remember if they played any recently.
Yeah, so I mean, depends on what you want to call recently. The most recent game was back in 2012. It was a scorcher, man, that day. But yeah, ECU, we were still FCS App at the time, but ECU won 35-13, so they took it to us pretty good. But we've actually only played I believe twice since like 1979 or something like that. I believe is the stat that's come out. And back then we were in the same conference. So yeah, it's been a while.
Nice. Well, guys, this game in Vegas actually opened up as an App was a 13.5-point favorite, and it's been bet down. I think it's being bet down to 9.5 at some places too. But I mean, this is going to be a good game, and it's really important for both teams. With ECU especially, though, I mean, Mike Houston, this is his third year, and really the third year of a head coach is really, that's the year that, hey, you want to be making some progress. This is where you want to just be hitting your stride and, turning the corner. And this ECU program needs it desperately because, as we mentioned in our American preview, they haven't been to a bowl game since 2014. So it's been just tough sledding for the Pirates since they let go of Ruffin McNeil. And I know, we can talk about that for hours and hours about how they shouldn't have done that, and they've kind of paid for it since. But here we are. Some people do expect ECU to make some progress. They were 3-6 last year. Can they get to a bowl game? If they're going to get to a bowl game, this is one of the games that I think ECU has to win. Guys, do you agree, disagree with that statement?
I agree. It's Holton Ahlers, the quarterback for ECU. He's been here, 8-9 years, I feel like. The guy's been here forever. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think definitely one that people need to tune into. But I just App State's got too much on that offensive side of the ball.
They do.
And going up against an ECU defense, it's probably improved, has experience coming back. But there's just no way. Like, I kind of like that 13.5 number. Didn't you say that's where it opened up at? It was like 13.5.
It opened, but it's got bet down to, right now I'm looking at 10.5 and some 9.5.
Yeah, so I kind of like App State a little bigger. So Baker, you're welcome.
Thanks,
and
man.
So I just think App State's too much for him, but it'll all come down to, does ECU's team defensive side of the ball show any kind of improvement? Are they going to be able to get after the quarterback? They got, App State's, their lines will be so good. They got a stable of running backs. I just think it's going to be very balanced, and it'll be fun though. I think both teams will have some big plays, but I kind of like App. I like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Josh. I like App to roll here. We'll let Baker talk in a minute because he's going to tell us a lot about App State. But I definitely like this App team. I think Sean Clark, his second full year here for the Mountaineers, I think they've got something to prove this year. You go back to last year's season, and arguably should have beat Coastal, shoulda, coulda, woulda, should have beat Louisiana. Oh, what a crazy ass game that was last year. But App's got something to prove. They're wanting to, tell Coastal and say, hey, Coastal and Louisiana, hey, we're still here in the Sun Belt. This is our Sun Belt, and they're going to try to make a statement this game by beating a mid-tier AAC team, and I think they do by double digits as well. So Baker, we'll let you talk, but we'll make sure we'll stop you before you go 20 minutes on it.
And go.
3-minute maximum, right?
Yes.
Nah, listen. A lot of my talk's going to be about ECU. Honestly, I went in. I've watched kind of all the press conferences from ECU and App recently to see what's going on with them, and I'll tell you, I'm impressed with ECU. I'm impressed with Mike Houston and what he's doing there. And I think that, he said himself that this is the most talented team that he's had at ECU since he's been there. And I know Colton Allers, he announced he's lost like 20 pounds in the offseason. He thinks he's going to become more of a dual threat guy. Their receivers have slimmed up a little bit and they're moving quicker. And quite frankly, they've got a pretty big O-line, which I think will be an interesting thing. That's always something to pay attention to against App, because App has a defense that's built more around speed rather than size. So you got the speed of App's defense going against that big, bulky O-line and tight end play of ECU. So it's going to be interesting to see how the defense can fly around, if they can kind of slide the holes there, slide the gaps, or if ECU will be able to overpower them on the offense. But I think really the game's going to come down to the offenses on both sides. The fact of the matter is, like I said a while ago, a lot of teams struggle the first game of the year, especially on offense. And I put it like this: if one of the teams struggles on offense, I think the other team may have an advantage there. Now, if both of the teams struggle on offense, I give the advantage to App, because App has a defense that is, very, very veteran with their leadership. They've just got a lot of returners, and they've proven to be a top defense in the country the past few years. So I would give the momentum to App at that point. But if App's offense struggles and ECU's offense is out there performing, App could be in for a day of it. So that's one thing to definitely pay attention to for me.
I agree, and I'll say this: if App can't run the ball, I think it's a whole different ball game. East Carolina, I was preparing for the show last year, when they gave up over 175 yards, they lost every single game last year. So if App can run the ball and control that clock and control the game, like I said, 2 touchdowns. But if they can't get that run game going, different story.
Yeah, and that's what App kind of makes that's what they bread their butter on. So if they can't run the ball, honestly, in any game, then they're probably screwed. I'll just be straight up with you. So.
No, hey, we know Sean Clark. Hey, he's an offensive line guy, so I think they'll be able to run the ball with people just fine. But I did want to ask Baker, what's the talk that you've heard, or the chatter coming out of like fall camp, in regards to Chase Bryce? What's the word been on him? Has he had a good fall camp, or do you know anything about how Bryce has been doing so far with that?
Yeah, he's had a very good fall camp. So the talk is he struggled at first in the spring, and a lot of that was because they saw the potential in him, but he didn't know the playbook, and he was making a lot of mistakes.
Right.
As he learned the playbook and had the time to go through the spring and have, I guess, the off season in between the spring and the fall there to, learn a little more and get to know his teammates a little better, the guys improved tremendously. And, some of the receivers have just said, like, man, the ball just feels different off of his arm, and he can really make plays. And he's cut a lot of weight too. He's in good game shape, so they're pretty high on him. They feel good about him. A lot of the players, and App's more of a player-driven team. The coaches don't generally comment on it as much. It's more about what the players think there. So, they feel good about him. But as a fan base, until we see him on the field and see that he can actually do it, it's all talk. And I'll always say that. So, I mean, who knows?
Well, what's your prediction on this game? I know Josh and I like App by double digits. What do you see happening here Thursday night?
Yeah, my personal prediction kind of goes back to what you were saying, that App this year, I feel like they're a dangerous team. They generally in the past have been dangerous in this situation because it's a year where they've got something really on their shoulder. They got a chip on their shoulder because last year they didn't live up to expectation, and they want this game. They want this year, and I feel like they play very well on Thursday, and I feel like they win by, 17 points, 14 to 17 points, that kind of thing. Also, one other thing I'll bring up, too, that was just kind of a crappy situation, but, man, this Duke's Mayo Bowl, ECU and App, they were supposed to play on Saturday, and they got pushed out like a year or two ago.
For Georgia Clemson
game.
Oh.
So they could have a bigger matchup. But, man, that would have been such a huge attendance, for that game if it would have stayed on a Saturday. And I hate when that happens for the G5 to get pushed out. I get it from the perspective of the city of Charlotte because, look, Clemson, Georgia, like, they're going to sell out. They already have. And App and ECU, even on a Thursday night, which is good. I mean, they're looking like they're going to have about 45,000 there, which is decent for a neutral site game.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But
it's going to be a good crowd, yeah.
Yeah, it will be. But I just hated that it got moved because that would have been, close to a full stadium if it was on a Saturday, you'd think.
That's probably 45,000 times the people that UCLA had at
the Hawaii game. Oh, that was awful.
They said the attendance was like 30-something thousand. There was maybe 3 people there.
Okay.
It was horrible.
Here was my question, because I wasn't listening to the announcers on that game. I was just kind of watching it. Was there like a COVID thing where like the attendance was limited?
I had the same question. I did not hear anything, John. I don't know if you heard anything, but I had the same question. It had to be like
I don't think there was. I really don't think there was. I just think people were just disinterested in the game. Hey, we'll definitely find out this Saturday with LSU and he's coming to town.
You're right.
So,
yeah.
Well, I know this. It's not a California-wide thing because I watched a little bit of that San Jose State game Saturday night, and they were packed in there like sardines. I'll tell you that.
They were, yeah. And that Fresno game, granted it was 120 degrees, but
yeah.
But guys, let's go ahead and move on to our third game, and another Sun Belt game. Those Louisiana Raging Cajuns travel down to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns.
I'm so stoked about this game. Let's be honest, I'm so this is probably in my one of the games I'm most excited about for this first week of college football.
Me too, man.
So excited.
For a 3:30 kickoff Central Time, it'll be on Fox, nationally televised on Fox, not Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports South. It'll be on Fox. So I'm definitely excited about this game. Just real quick, for those, if you're listening, Louisiana beat Iowa State last year. Now, the problem here is that Texas, even though they weren't as good as Iowa State was last year, Texas is more talented. And kind of what scares me about this game is that Texas has so much talent, especially up front on both sides of the ball, that kind of does scare me. Now, Louisiana, we go back to our Sun Belt preview. We all love Louisiana. They're talented up front as well. And they pretty much return everybody except for, they lose a couple running backs, Trey Regis and Mitchell. But that's what scares me this game. And what also scares me is Texas has a new head coach. Steve Sarkisian comes in. Is he gonna lose that game? Because if he loses his first game to a G5 school at Texas, they're already going to be calling for his head. And that's really what scares me with this game. I hope Louisiana can prove me wrong, and get another W over that's what the Sun Belt does. They beat Big 12 teams. We saw that last year. I hope they can prove me wrong and do it again this year. But I mean, Texas is just so talented. They're an 8-point favorite right now. I believe. Let me see what that spread opened up is. I should have known that. I believe it was. Well, I don't have it now, but I believe it was closer to 10 points, but it has been bet down to 8, I believe, and the over/under is 58. But guys, what are your thoughts on this game? I mean, tell me. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, it's a top 25 matchup. Louisiana's coming in at number 23. Texas is at 21. So it should be a good game, but it just really scares me that Texas they're going to be zeroed in on Louisiana. They're not going to overlook Louisiana for Arkansas next week.
No, and so I circled this because at first I was going to be like, yeah, the Raging Cajuns have the upset here. Like I almost was like all aboard. Couple of things. So looking back at the Iowa State win, ULL got help. They had two They created 2 turnovers that game. They returned I think a punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown. So they had a lot of things go right in that game last year for them to win. Not to take anything away, because it was a great team last year, very talented, and they do return a lot of people this year on both sides of the ball. Levi Lewis back at quarterback, very very experienced. A lot of people are returning that know how to play winning football, but the thing that I will give Texas is, like, to your point, John, I don't know, like, Sarkisian really cannot afford to lose this game. Going back to that, when we're talking about UCF and Boise, like, who's got the most to lose? I think Sark's got the most to lose losing that game. Yeah. Test right away. Granted, year 1, game 1, but their new offensive coordinator, Kyle Flood, he is a offensive line guy. He is known for coaching good football up front, and that's how you win games. You control the line of scrimmage. So I really see Texas trying to make a statement controlling the line. I think Texas has a little bit more size than the Raging Cajuns do. However, with that said, the experience that Louisiana brings back, like, literally, I think will make up for a lot of things. And so I think I think for the most part, it's going to be a close game. I could see it kind of going back and forth. Because I think Texas. The thing about Sark is that he really it takes him a little bit to see what the defense is going to do. He's a great, brilliant offensive mind, but it takes him a minute to get kind of settled in, especially with the new team, new players. You don't know how they're going to react. So I can see, like, the first half of the game being pretty close. I see Texas probably pulling away and winning by probably a touchdown, maybe 10 points at the most. But I'm still really stoked about this game, because if Louisiana can get some turnovers like they did last year in the Iowa State game, and they play lights out, brilliant football, great game plan, which I know Billy Napier will have. I mean, they can do the upset. I would not be surprised, and I hope they do. But I think I slightly give Texas the edge. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I'm super stoked about it.
If Louisiana can somehow just stay in the game until midway through the third quarter and just be in it, then I think, obviously they've got a shot at getting the upset. And I trust Levi Lewis. I mean, he's a hell of a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's proven. And honestly, too, Billy Napier is the better head coach as of now compared to Steve Sarkisian.
For sure.
But yeah, I can't wait to see. This is definitely going to be on one of our screens come Saturday, and I just can't wait to see. And we'll definitely be pulling for the Raging Cajuns. But Baker, how are you seeing in this Louisiana Texas game? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so a few things here. One thing I want to point out, first and foremost, and look, obviously I have a little bit of Sun Belt bias, but we're not here for the Longhorn fans on this show, so sorry about it, Texas. We're a G5.
This ain't the Longhorn Network.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
You're right. Listen, last year, and I know it's COVID year, the Sun Belt was 3-0 against the Big 12, and let's be honest, Texas has a lot on their mind these days. Like, it could be distracting, everything that's going on in the world of Texas. Not to mention, I mean, look, we talk about the whole SEC thing, the whole leaving the Big 12 thing, but you also have to remember the fact that they've just gone through a coaching transition. So, again, a lot on their mind, but, they do have some guys returning. But with that, like you said, Louisiana, I mean, they got a lot of guys returning, and really their main hole is the running back position. But when's the last time you've heard of Louisiana having bad running backs? I mean, literally every year they're like running back you. So I don't really feel like they're going to have a hole there. Like, yeah, they may have lost some running backs, but at the same time, I guarantee you they got about 10 more where that came from, and they got about 5 more down in the bayou if they want to pick them up too. I mean, that's what they do down there. Let's be honest. So, and then you look at Levi Lewis. I mean, look, the kid, I say kid, that guy, he's another guy that's been there forever. And look, he makes good decisions. He takes care of the ball, but I mean, he's also still really productive, and he's a dual threat. And anytime you got a dual threat in a game like that, it always helps, in my opinion. Additionally,
and he's so smart with the ball too. Smart.
I mean, he really is. He really is. But I mean, additionally, the other thing I'll say too, you take a look at their defense, and last year, they really produced a lot of turnovers, especially in the secondary. And Texas last year kind of made their money off of the passing game. And look, I mean, if you've got a defense right here that's notoriously been good against the pass, and you're going up against, I'll just go ahead and let this cat out of the bag, Texas starting quarterback Hudson Card, who is a freshman, the guy hasn't started before. I mean, he could make some mistakes against the secondary who's pretty decent. So, look, I mean, I'm saying it's definitely a possibility. When you look at Texas's defense, I think they definitely need to improve, especially in their run defense. And that could hurt them in this game because, again, Louisiana can run the ball. And let's, by the way, take another look at the fact that look at who they hired. Steve Sarkisian's not a defensive-minded coach. They already had a good offense, but they didn't have much on defense. So is there
the Big 12?
Yeah, well, I get it, but it is Big 12. So bring it on because Louisiana can score. I mean, they can ball. That's my point. And the one last thing I'm going to say about it too, I think this is the biggest point of all. Like, when you look at the line of scrimmage, I don't care if you're on offense or you're on defense, the one thing that has always stood out about Louisiana, they are big. I mean, even when they weren't good, they're a team that they get off the bus and you're like, man, is this the daggum San Francisco 49ers or is this the Louisiana Raging Cajuns? Like, they're big dudes on the offense and the defensive line. And they're not going to be scared of Texas. And Texas is going to look at them and be like, okay, these guys look like us. They don't look like, a smaller school. And the fact is, they're going to be able to hold up. They're strong and they're big. And if Texas isn't ready for that, they'll take advantage of it. And by the way, Josh, too, you mentioned the special teams thing and how things maybe kind of went their way a few times last year in the Iowa State game. At the same time, you got to look at it like, they got good special teams. They've had good special teams. And if they can keep that up, they can make plays like that again. And I'm not saying it will happen, but I think they've got a lot going for them. And I could see them doing this. And additionally, you look at Texas, Waddle, Smith, Judy, those guys aren't walking out of the locker room. Like, you don't have Nick Saban's toys anymore, and you haven't had the chance to recruit guys to Texas. So,
for sure. Yeah, it ain't going to be 2020 Bama game one. No. Yeah. Well, so who's going to win? Who do you think's going to win?
I mean, you can tell based off of what I said. I'm on the train. I'm on the train for the Cajuns.
Listen, I hope so. And also, I'm going to go grab another drink because I realized I said ULL. Apologies. I was looking at some stats, and I saw ULL, and I said it. So apologies there. I will go drink another one for you guys. Sorry.
Just remember, you need more drinks when you can't talk.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes, exactly. So No, I hope they do. Like like I said, I'm so stoked, and I'll be rooting for them every single play, and I think it can
Me
happen.
too.
I hope they do it, and out of all the games, I really think this is the greatest chance of an upset.
And I hope they do too, Josh. And I still think, I'm kind of confident on taking Texas +8 in this game because I think, if they don't, they'll keep it close at least,
Yeah,
within a touchdown. So I definitely like that, and I hope Louisiana can do it because God, come on, that would be so awesome to see just another, Sun Belt team take down another Big 12 team, which is, what Baker said and I said earlier. That's all they did last year was beat Big 12 teams. So, and when they do. Do the Louisiana fans chant SEC back at the Texas fans, or do they chant
ooh,
SBC? Or I don't know. What do they do here?
they chant "We want Bama."
Ooh, hey, Billy Napier is familiar with that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and shout out, by the way, to our buddies over at Rage and Review podcast for Louisiana. They do a hell of a job covering Louisiana. So definitely give them a listen, and they should have their preview up for this game soon if it's not there already. But definitely rooting for those Raging Cajuns to get the hashtag G5 over P5 victory this Saturday afternoon. Well, that was going to be it for us, guys. But because we had such a great turnout on that Twitter poll that we ran, we decided to add another game, and we wanted to add the game that finished in second, which is Southern Miss at South Alabama. This game will happen Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus. And guys, this is the big game. This is another G5 game between CUSA, Conference USA, and Sun Belt, but two new head coaches. Both teams have new head coaches this year. They faced off last year. It was a really good game. South Alabama got the win in Hattiesburg, 32-21. But those Golden Eagles, they're going to be wanting revenge this Saturday, and it looks like on Twitter that a lot of Southern Miss fans will be making the quick trip over to Mobile to see that beautiful new stadium at South Alabama. So I can't wait to see on TV what the atmosphere is going to be like there. I anticipate it being a really good crowd, and of course South Alabama is going to have a good crowd there as well. But just a really important game for both of these schools to start that, get that first victory for that coach. And, you go back and listen to our Conference USA preview, our Sun Belt preview. Both of these schools, guys, we talked about both of these schools being dark horses in their respective divisions in those conferences. So this is going to be a really good game, and I can't wait to see it. Right now, it's really a pick 'em, but right now it looks like South Alabama is a slight 1-point favorite. But I am stoked to see what happens Saturday night in Mobile. And guys, what do y'all think? I think this is going to be one hell of a game.
I think this will be a good game. Did you realize both of these teams combined to turn over the ball 48 times last year?
Well, there's a reason some coaching changes were made, and in fact, Southern Miss had a few head coaches last year. So
yeah, no,
it was a lot. It was a lot.
There was
a
lot of reasons. I just saw that. It's like, oh, whoa. No, I think it's gonna be a great game. I'm going to give the edge to Southern Miss. I think their defensive line was going to win the game for them. I think the passing game for South Alabama will be better, but I still think it's going to take some time for it to get going. So I definitely see the defensive line of Southern Miss getting after it, pressuring the quarterback, which will allow Southern Miss's offense under new offensive coordinator Matt Kubik to kind of to get in its groove, make a couple of scores, maybe kind of get out early to stay ahead. They kind of control the game later on. I think it's going to be a good game, though, but I see Southern Miss coming out on top.
Yeah, and to remember from last year, too, is that Southern Miss had a bunch of opt-outs, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and even on the defensive line. They had guys just basically opt out of the season, and I definitely expect. I mean, this is a revenge game for Southern Miss. They've had this circled on their schedule. I mean, even though it's the first game, but they've definitely been zeroed in on this first game of this season against South Alabama because I mean they really weren't supposed to lose to South Alabama last year. They were favored against South Alabama, and they just looked like crap that game last year. And they're going to be motivated this year. And I just can't wait to see how Will Hall does in his first year, coming over from Tulane, seeing that offense for Southern Miss. I can't wait to see how Trey Lowe does in that offense. So I'm stoked. And even on the South Alabama side, like I can't wait to see Kane Womack. He's I actually forgot that I think he played at Southern Miss. So that's even more, another thing to add in this game, going between these two schools. So I'm definitely excited to see what happens. But South Alabama, we talked about them a lot. Really talented really talented wide receivers, offensive lineman, Hayden Merchant, really talented. Just can't wait to see. And hell, Jake Bentley. I can't believe I didn't mention him at first. Jake Bentley's here with the Jaguars, so we'll get to see how he looks under Womack. But this is going to be a really good game to see. And, really both of these two teams have a lot to gain from this game, but a lot to lose from this game too. Like the loser, I mean, things aren't going to be looking too good. You lost your first game, especially for South Alabama. If you lose that opener game, I mean, it's not going to look too pretty. But Baker, what do you think? I know you're more familiar with the South Alabama side than Southern Miss. What's your read on this game?
Well, listen, I've looked at both, and to me, I'm going to tell you this. This game, if I had to pick a game to describe this, this is a sleeper game this weekend. This game should have more attention than it does.
Agreed.
This game's going to be great. I'm telling you. But I mean, look, this is the second game all time that these guys have ever even played, and they're right down the road from each other. Last year was the first time. And listen, I know South Alabama has not been around that long, but by God, they should have played by now. I mean, They just should have, But listen, both of these guys, as we had talked about in our previews, both of them are on the come up here. I think, both of them really could make some noise. But you're absolutely right in the fact that the winner of this, this is going to really set the pace for the winner to move forward and really have a surprising year. So I don't know who it's going to be necessarily, and I'll give a prediction in a minute, but I'm excited about it. I mean, Southern Miss, all you need to know, by God, Frank Gore Jr., you don't need to know anything else. I mean, listen, there's other things about him, but Frank Gore Jr., that guy's insane. I mean, and you look there's so much star power in this game, honestly, for these teams. Frank Gore Jr., look at Jalen Tolbert on the USA offense there. Jake Bentley is a guy. I mean, Trey Lowe is going to be interesting to me. I don't know if I love him being the quarterback or not, because to me, I was almost in favor of them starting I think there was a local product that was really looking good, and there was another guy, T. Webb, I believe, that had transferred from Louisville. And Trey Lowe, from what I understood, wasn't, insane last year by any means, and I thought the other guys had some potential. But listen, I mean, Will Hall, he's an offensive guy. He was the offensive coordinator at Tulane, so you got to take his word. He obviously likes something about Trey Lowe if he's throwing him in, but I don't know that they'll need him as good as Frank Gore Jr. is, I tell you that. Additionally, looking at it here, I think with South, the biggest thing that you're going to see is they're going to struggle to run the ball. I think their passing game should be there just because they have, honestly, in my opinion, one of the best receiving cores in the Sun Belt. And I think Jake Bentley, as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to find a lot of his old form here at South Alabama. To me, I almost think this game could turn into a shootout. I don't know that, but
interesting.
I can very well see it turning into a shootout, which may not be what others are seeing, because I don't see great defense on either side. And I know Southern Miss is getting some guys back, but I think it'll be a fun game to watch, man. For a fan, tune in.
Definitely. It looks like the over-under on that game right now is 56.5. So that is going to be interesting to see. I could see it going being a little high scoring too, Baker. But real quick on the Southern Miss side, I definitely want to give yes, Trey Lowe is a question mark, but and you mentioned Frank Gore Jr. of course, but at wide receiver guys, they are talented. Yeah, they lose Tim Jones, but Jason Brownlee and DeMarcus Jones, I mean, those guys are studs. So they just need somebody to get them the ball. So whether that be Trey Lowe, whether that be the transfer from Louisville, what was his name, T. Webb, or the talented freshman coming in, Jake Lange. So just need somebody to get him the ball. So I am kind of in a wait and see approach with Trey Lowe. I liked what I saw in the FAU game at the end of the 2020 season. He looked better. And obviously, as Baker mentioned too, Will Hall see something in Trey Lowe too. So we got to take his word on that and see how he does. But definitely, guys, check this game out on ESPN Plus, 7 p.m. Central Time in Mobile as Southern Miss travels to take on the South Alabama Jaguars.
One other thing real quick about it too that I think is kind of an interesting thought here. When you look at South Alabama, I almost feel like this year they're going to use the pass game to open up the run, which is the complete opposite of what you usually hear.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a good thing either, but I almost feel like their receivers are so good right now that they're going to be able to use that pass game in order to open up the middle of the field.
Play to your strengths. Do what you got to do. I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And real quick, lastly on this game, I feel like Southern Miss has more to prove than, South Alabama in this game, because Southern Miss is just coming off, last year was just terrible. I know South didn't have a good year last year either, but Southern Miss, this, South is a relatively new program still, but Southern Miss, great tradition, they've just always been good, but just these last few years, they've just slowly, kind of fallen off. Now, granted, hey, they probably didn't make the best hire on the previous guy before Will Hall, getting the guy from Alcorn State. And Hobson. Jay Hobson. Probably not the smartest hire, but I did, when they announced the Will Hall hire, I was excited and I thought that would do something for the Southern Miss program. So if they can go into Mobile and get this win at South Alabama to start off the Will Hall tenure, then things, could be looking great for Southern Miss. Now, in a couple of weeks, they've got another test against the Sun Belt team with Troy. And then they go to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. But that's another topic for another day. But I definitely think that Southern Miss has more to prove in this game. I don't know if you guys would, feel otherwise, but I just definitely think Southern Miss has more to gain in this game.
I agree. Do you guys have some predictions on it?
I do. It's basically a pick 'em. I do like it to be a tight contest, but I do like Southern Miss by 7 points.
Yeah, I kind of right there with you, John. I like Southern Miss in this game. I think I'm going to kind of take the opposite stance. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a low-scoring game because I just think these offenses may take a second to get going. So I think it'll be kind of I think that over-under is about right, but I do like Southern Miss.
So I'm going to go with Southern Miss as well, but I will say that if Kane Womack can come in and get the defense to be somewhat productive for South Alabama, that could make it more of an interesting thing there. But I do like the fact for Trey Lowe, just one more thing on him, to say that, South Alabama's defense hasn't been great. So it does help him to know that he's maybe going to be facing a defense that may not be world beaters by any means.
No, for sure. All right, guys. Well, we're going to transition to a new little segment we're going to try. And if you hate it, please let us know. If you like it, we'll keep going. But we're calling it Sunday Morning Headlines. So we'll real quickly go around and see what we think will be on the cover of the if the G5 were to have a newspaper, what would be the headline on the front page? So, John, we'll start with you.
Yes, I have two. And I'll just get my first one. The Jeff Traylor Roadrunners are for real as they go into Champaign and get the W over Illinois. I'm really confident in this UTSA team, especially watching the Illinois and Nebraska week 0. Yeah, but I'm
and Illinois maybe without their starting quarterback.
Exactly. And Sincere McCormick, hey, they about to know on the Big Ten Network who this guy is. He's been lighting up Conference USA and everywhere. So can't wait to see. But yeah, I'm very confident in UTSA getting the hashtag G5 over P5 victory.
Would it be fair to say the Roadrunners may be toasting a little bit of champagne this weekend, boys?
Damn it! See, you're way more creative than I am. Yeah, so I'll give that. Yeah, we'll use that. Yeah, Baker, go ahead and give us yours. Yeah, while you're up.
All right. So, kind of in the same mold, in my opinion. The headlines are always dominated by games that are related to a P5 team, whether we like it or not. So my headline is Texas is back, ... to their losing ways.
I love it.
Bring them on, Cajuns.
Yes. Josh, what's yours, buddy?
Mine is Duck Bulldogs. So I think the Fresno State Bulldogs are going to give the Oregon Ducks a run for their money. Now, I know Fresno had a challenging game against New York Times national champion UConn Huskies.
Right.
But I think that allowed them to kind of work through some days, kind of get warmed up, kind of, maybe practice a couple of things for this Oregon game. I like Fresno. I know you guys gave Fresno a lot of love. This podcast gave Fresno a lot of love in our preview. I'm not going to flat out call for the upset. Now, I would love it, and I think it could happen, but I really think that Oregon's going to have a big, big scare with the Bulldogs.
Let's go. Hey, Jake Hayner,
Jake
guy
Hayner
can play. Yeah. I've got one more too. Well, this ain't really a headline, but I just wanted to note before we wrapped up. I think either Nevada or San Jose State is getting a G5 over P5 win as well this Saturday. Nevada has to go to Cal to take on California, and San Jose State has to go take on the USC Trojans. So I like one of those. Probably Nevada, but hey, don't sleep on San Jose State. I think they can catch USC sleeping. So I definitely like one of those to also get a hashtag G5 over P5 victory this weekend.
I like Nevada too, and let's be honest, we know how those California Pac-12 schools support their team, so they'll be playing stadium.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right, well, I know we're getting close to the end, guys, but I did want to mention our poll that we're going to put out on Sunday. So this will be for the G5 beat of the week, the game that we cover for week 2. We'll have 4 games on the poll. I'll go through them briefly. So we'll have Western Kentucky versus Army, Buffalo versus Nebraska, Georgia Southern versus FAU, and San Diego State versus Arizona. Again, we'll put this out on Sunday. It'll be for 24 hours. Had incredible response in the first one. If you can continue with that and share it and participate in the next poll, and we'll add that to our breakdown for week 2.
Definitely. And if you're not already following us on Twitter, give us a follow at twitter.com/theg5beat. And also, if you haven't already, make sure and, share us with some other G5 fans. If you've got a friend or a family member that that likes a group of 5 school, spread the word. Let them know about our podcast. Tell them we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever. Just if you haven't already too, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button to make sure that you get all of our new episodes straight to your device instead of having to go out each time and download it. You don't even have to worry about that. You can just get it straight to your device. But guys, week 1 is here. Can't wait to watch a lot of great football this week and hopefully get to see some hashtag G5 over P5 wins. But we'll be back next week to, recap what happened in week 1 and get you guys ready for week 2. But as always, thanks for listening and happy football watching, guys.
Enjoy some ball.